On today's show, halfway through the Mavericks season, what do they look like? What can we expect from them the rest of the season? Why hasn't small ball worked? We'll answer all those questions and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show. Make it Locked On Mavs your first listen today. The best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, leave a 5-star review, like the video, and comment anything below. Let us know in the comment section. The Mavericks will finish blank in the West by the end of the year. Give me a number. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. And joining me, the triumphant return from Valley Sports Southwest, the star herself. What you got for me, Dana Larson?
Oh, it's so good to see you again. It's so good to be back. Happy New Year. I don't think I've even been here in the new year, and I miss you guys. It's been a long road through the holidays. Just a little PSA, get your flu shot. Taking care of a family when the flu runs through it, not so fun. So please, everybody, stay healthy out there.
There you go. That's your medical PSA from,
That's right.
from Locked On Mavs today. Oh man. We're halfway through the season. The Mavs have played 42 games now? So we're over the hump, at least by one game. And so we want to do a true midway check through the season. So we're gonna play a game where I'll say finish the sentence, and I'll say a bunch of sentences like Luka can win MVP if Kyrie has found his role on the Mavericks by doing blank. And so we'll finish the sentence on a lot of these things. We'll talk about Dereck Lively. We'll talk about the Mavs small ball lineups. We'll talk about their next 9 games that are pretty important and could, dare I say, define the season. I know that's a loaded phrase I've said in the past. We'll talk maybe about Omax at the end. I've watched some of his G League games lately, and so we'll get into all that. But let's start here. Luka Doncic returned against the Lakers the other night. He is having probably his best season so far as an NBA player. Statistically, in several categories, he is. Dana, Luka Doncic can win MVP if he
stays healthy. There's going to be a couple things that go into this. Obviously, stays healthy. And does not miss more than 10 more games, right? Because I think he has to stay within that threshold. You've got to play at least 65 games to be eligible, and he can only miss 10 more games, I believe it is, going forward. He's missed 7, if I'm doing my math right there. So obviously, health is everything. We've also discovered that the team winning is very important. We saw the Player of the Month award in December that did not go to Luka, and it seemed almost insane that it did not go to Luka. But it certainly had a whole lot more to do with Oklahoma City and how their team record was for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So the Mavericks really need to continue to win and to climb in the standings for him to be, under consideration. He's got to still play at a career high level, continuing to do things. He's first in points created, tied for first with 40-point games. Those are things that get people's attention, right? He's got triple-double after triple-double, second in points a game, third in assists per game. Those are all great things to build the case, but he could also need a little help. He may need some help from the others around him who are up there as top candidates to either A, cool off, or also not be able to reach that 65 game threshold.
That's just such a weird new thing that you have to, like, it's like at 65. So like I think Embiid can only miss like 7 or 8 more games too.
Right.
In this. And so, and I've seen a lot of people mention, oh, he'll miss 6, like it'll just be, but sometimes you can't control that. Sometimes there's just injuries and it happens where a guy can't play. And so, yeah, staying healthy is such a weird new thing. I think the team too has to be a little bit better. I don't think they're going to look at a 7th place in the West like they are right now, Dallas Mavericks team, because the last time a player was like a player on a team that was this low in their conference standings, I think it was Westbrook. They were like 6th or 7th when he was on the Thunder, when he had that triple-double season. But he had like a very unique stat line season that we hadn't seen before. And I don't think they're going to give it to Luka for that. He's got to have some moments, and they've got to rise up a little bit higher than what most people expected them to be in the standing, when maybe just making the playoffs is higher than some people expected them to be, like considering last year. But
Absolutely. And you hear people debate the definition of MVP year in and year out. But it certainly is not just about your individual performance. To be the most valuable to your team, you have to make others around you great. You have to raise the level of your team. And I agree, if you are at sort of the bottom of the group that's pushing into the playoffs, that isn't going to be considered lifting your team up enough. Maybe even like that Laker game is a pretty good example. He easily scores 30 points. He records a 30-point triple-double in his sleep, but they got beat bad. And so that you cannot just be a stat stuffer. You certainly have to prove that you are carrying your team to greater heights.
That game would have also been a really good kickoff point for the second half of the season for the Luka MVP narrative too, because that's part of it. You mentioned the Player of the Month award that gets chosen by the NBA. The MVP gets chosen by media and and a group of people, and so like that game last night could have been a nice indicator, a nice like kickoff into the Luka is looking really good. He's better than he's ever been. Why aren't we considering Luka for MVP? And he got the stats in that game. He looked pretty good at times coming back from injury, but yeah, Mavs just got destroyed. And if you get destroyed, you don't win the MVP. That's just
true. Absolutely. Absolutely.
The next sentence: Kyrie Irving has found his role on the Mavericks by
being himself. Okay, so I'm going back to the game he returned from the extended injury against Utah. And he talked about how I didn't want to step on any toes. And then 48 hours later, he was like, I don't know what that was. I am not a passive person. That is not my personality. And then he went into superstar mode, and you immediately were reminded that this is one of the greatest players there is. And he absolutely needs to be aggressive. He needs to make his presence felt on this team. He was brought in to be 1A with Luka, not somebody tap dancing around the edges trying to find how he fits in. So to me, Kyrie's role on this team is just literally being a superstar. We know he can do that. We see it. No problem. The other thing, though, that then I think in the last couple of weeks we've really seen too is part of what is really important for him is to pick up other roles for guys who are out injured. And that is continuing to be a theme on this team. So whether it's, going into 40-point mode because Luka's out and you need uber scoring, or it's a guy or you've got, a shortage of bigs and you're getting killed on the boards, and now one of your smallest guys out there is going to be your second leading rebounder. Kyrie can do that. He can go pick up the slack everywhere because he's one of those incredibly talented elite players who plays with, tons of energy and effort. We've seen it on the defensive end. We see him playing. I was talking about this the other night in a postgame show, playing to exhaustion. Yes. I mean, literally leaving every little ounce out there. He's wearing himself out, trying to swat a ball away, to create a steal, to create a turnover. And then he's catching his breath, racing to the other end of the floor. So I love seeing that. And he's just one of those, I think he's finding all these places to fill. And you got a superstar and you got a guy who can fill all these roles for a team that's just endlessly hurt.
The like playing himself to exhaustion is a great point. That play in a Lakers game where LeBron undercut him on that pass. I went and watched it back a little bit because I was like, man, that just looks like in real time, like split second, that looks so dirty from LeBron for him to just like bulldoze his. And Kyrie actually like leans his body forward to try and catch that ball too, and like put himself in danger a little bit to try and I think that's why they didn't call anything on it, because he was putting himself in that spot as well, because he wanted to get to the ball and yes. Like not even just get to the ball and catch it, but make that pass, because it was an outlet pass, because it was a pass down to Kyrie, and then Kyrie was going to kick over to, it was Lively or somebody down the floor. And so like he is putting himself in danger at times, and you wish that he wouldn't do that as often,
Yes.
but it's what makes him what it is. Like, you have to live on this edge. You have to have that edge and that mentality, or else, and as soon as you lose it, like, you just start to lose a lot of what you are as a player. And I think he had lost some of that in the beginning of the season. First 18 games of this season, right? Like, so until that Utah game, like that first game when he came back from injury, 18 shots a game. Since then, so the last 8 games, 23 shots a game. They just need him to call his number a little bit more. And that's really been the difference with Kyrie, him finding his role. Now, he had an off game against the Lakers, and, things like that will happen, but he's been excellent. He's been awesome and an amazing leader, and it's been great to see.
Well, and he's so clutch. So there's another thing. I mean, talk about if you want to have a role and you're the closer, because he is that absolute steady hand on the wheel. He's that veteran that creates calm. If young guys are out there, they're poised with him because they look to him to make the right pass, take the right shot, do the right thing. He leads the team in clutch points since his return. So you've got Mr. Clutch. You've got a guy who is going to hit big free throws, who's going to make big shots. And he's fearless, to your point, absolutely fearless. And so lead the way, and the rest are following.
Absolutely. Coming up, let's talk about his backcourt mate at times, Tim Hardaway Jr., who has just been dealing. The Mavs should or shouldn't trade Tim Hardaway Jr. because. We'll answer that question and more coming up. Today's episode brought to you by eBay Motors. Our partner at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd, the GOAT, to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft, scouting the waiver wire, or doing just the fantasy normal stuff, we're going to provide you the list of players that are guaranteed to fit your roster. So let's see who Josh has picked out for us in this week's eBay Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. He's got a couple names on here. One of them that's kind of interesting to me is Gjorgjievski. If you listen to Locked On NBA Big Board with Rafael Barlow, friend of the show, obviously Locked On, he was real big on Gjorgjievski, loved him, went and scouted him a ton. Josh Lloyd says Memphis needs shot creation, and Gigi can do it. He has shown flashes and should be some managers can look to grab to see how Memphis deploys him. He got the interview after the TNT game the other day when he was on there, and to see him like respond when Shaq was on the other end of the line was so amazing. It's like you forget sometimes that these guys were huge fans growing up. So love Gjorgjievski. Hopefully he gets a good shot there in Memphis and gets some opportunity. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to give you help to win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure that your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever your car needs, eBay Motors has it. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. We appreciate each and every one of you. We've got a 24/7 Locked On Sports Dallas stream. You can watch it on YouTube right now if you want to, and check in on all the different Dallas shows. See if the Cowboys guys are still sad. See if Bryce has sobered up since the Rangers championship parade on Locked On Rangers. You can check all that stuff out. Locked On Sports Dallas. Sample some other shows as well on there. Also on Firestick TV. We're all over the place now. Dana, let's get into some more of these questions. It's halfway through the season. We're finishing the sentence. The Mavs should or shouldn't trade Tim Hardaway Jr. because you get to decide which way you want to go with it.
Okay. All right. They should not trade Tim Hardaway Jr. because here's the reason. You cannot count on Kyrie and Luka to stay healthy. I wish you could. But history is just proving that they're players. We've just talked about how they play. They're constantly on the floor. They're constantly, battling with, big players and getting beat up in games and whatever. There are going to be bumps and bruises. There's going to be games. There's going to be stretches that your big two are not there. When one of them is out, you can argue that Tim Hardaway Jr. is the next most important player, because on many teams, he could be your number 2 guy. You could even argue he could be a number 1 somewhere with the way he can fill it up. He is instant offense. He is one of those guys that works on his game. He's one of those guys that knows who he is. He shoots and shoots and shoots, and he's not afraid if he's not having a good game to just keep doing it. And he can go unconscious on you, and he can win a game for you, like we saw him, help the Mavericks do against the Pelicans with a 40-point night. So to me, unless what you're getting back is somebody who can help pick up that kind of huge offensive slack, I think you cannot afford to be without him.
I think you're right. I think you're right, Dana. I think the injury point is very good. I wish that I could just come on here and be like, no, they need to trade him for a better defensive player. But to me, the Mavs shouldn't trade Tim Hardaway Jr. because Jaden Hardy and Seth Curry haven't panned out. If those guys were playing a lot better than what they are, then maybe you look at it and go, oh, he's expendable. But those guys haven't stepped up in the way that you had maybe hoped they would for whatever reason. They have not played consistent minutes. There's a lot of different reasons you could point to as to why those guys aren't. Then Tim has been very good, and so they've played Tim a ton, and so that's another reason why these guys haven't played as many minutes. And so, they shouldn't trade him because of that. If you're just focusing on the court now, I'm gonna couch it. I'm gonna do both sides.
Okay,
it's my show. I get to decide. They should trade Tim Hardaway Jr. because it's not about this season. It's about going forward. If they can get a piece with the Tim Hardaway Jr. contract that helps them going forward, it's about next season and the season after that, and going forward with Luka and Lively and Kyrie for a couple more seasons. It's about that going forward. It's not about this season. So I'm going both sides.
It's fine. You're allowed, and I think you also make a good point with that. And you certainly, you're building something. You can feel that, and you've got pieces that are for the long term right now. So you feel really good about that. You're not just desperately putting all chips on the table to win it this year.
Dereck Lively II has been an incredible rookie so far. He came back in that Lakers game, looked really good. Dereck Lively will hit a rookie wall unless.
Okay, Dereck Lively will hit a rookie wall unless he just keeps it simple. Just keep it simple, right? So I've got a couple of tips along this way, because I think this is something that I feel like is real. How can it not be? I mean, he's 19 years old. He played one college season. I think it was 31 games, right?
He's played 31 games now.
31 games is what he just played, and we are halfway, right? So the rigors of an NBA season are nothing like what he's been through at any point in his life. So it is going to be difficult. You almost have to acknowledge that these things are going to come. You have to figure out how to deal with it, and you have to just keep it simple. I think for him, he likes to talk about how I just like to do the dirty work. I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to rebound the ball, and I'm going to make the right pass, and I'm going to play physical. And if you just kind of look at what you're doing night in and night out and kind of compartmentalize, I think maybe that can help for him. There's also some things, truly, I think you stay in close contact with Don Cockstein. This is the director of sports psychology for the Mavericks, right? You stay checked in with somebody who can help you mentally deal with it. Like, you're going to take your lumps as a rookie every single night. Even if you have a good game, you're going to walk away and go, I just went up against a future Hall of Famer. It's hard. It's going to take its toll. You stay in close contact with somebody who knows how to keep you in the present, who knows how to keep you positive, right? They have all those tools there. And I think those things could really be worthwhile for him. Not to mention, let's look at the silver lining of the games he's missed. He's missed 11 games. Okay. So maybe this was a little built-in blessing in disguise, where he was able to sort of, recharge just a little bit. It wasn't in those intense games night in and night out. And, maybe that he could bottle up some of that, and that'll be there for him when he does feel like he's kind of hitting that wall.
What a weird thing in that job, like Dereck Lively's job of playing basketball. There's these weird things built in where if you get hurt, you just don't do your job for like a little while, and like still travel around, and you've got to like prep and go do pregame stuff and all that. But like, like most of us don't have that in our jobs. We're like, I guess getting sick is kind of like,
right. That's true. That's true. I know. And there's a real physical toll that I think the travel does take, I mean, yes, it's on private jets and in nice hotels, right? You always have to
You've got a bar in there,
say
Dana.
that. But there are, things that happen to your body when you change all these time zones and you're up late and then you're up early and then you're, so I mean, he is learning to deal with all that nutrition, sleep, training. But I think as long as there's a way to keep it, and I know the team has a team around him to manage kind of a training overload situation. So to me, it's just like, if he just continues to keep it simple in his head, and I think he's done really, really good at everything that's come at him so far.
I'm not even worried about him mentally, because he is just, and my answer to this question is he will hit a rookie wall unless he's an alien, which I think he is. He's just like such on another level because of the things he's gone through in his life. Like, it's made him strong. It's made him the type of guy that, like, he's so much older. Like, sometimes I'm like, is he older than me? No, yeah. I'm still like a decade.
Yes, I feel like he could give me life advice. He could. And I would be very happy to take it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I am worried about the physical because it is going to, like, it does hit everybody. Like you said, it is a real thing. The rookie wall is. But where does the rookie wall usually hit guys? It's usually like their shot or that. And you're right. If he keeps it simple, does what he does, then, as long as he keeps the mentality of hustle and physically he stays right, which maybe some of these games off have helped, I think he'll avoid that in a way, because he is getting spoon-fed these shots, man.
Yes.
It's been amazing to watch. Coming up, why hasn't small ball worked for the Mavericks? It was at some points of the season. Now it just doesn't look like it's working at all. The bigs are back and healthy now, but why hasn't small ball worked for the Mavericks? We'll talk about that, answer some more questions coming up. Today's episode brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. You can go to prizepicks.com, see what's available for you, and all you have to do is pick 2 to 6 players, and then you pick more or less on their stat projections. Prize Picks picks the projections. You don't have to, like, find it and set it yourself and do all that. That's kind of annoying. You just go and sign in, and then you can go and find, like, Luka Doncic points plus rebounds plus assists. That's kind of fun. There's a lot of stuff for the NFL this weekend. You've got Jordan Love, 249.5 passing yards. That's gone up recently. Last night it was not that. I'm going to go more on that for San Francisco, against San Francisco. Let me go more. Lamar Jackson, Isaac's guy, 227.5. Give me less just to make Isaac mad. And then CJ Stroud, 235.5 passing yards against the Ravens. Give me more, just again to make Isaac mad. Put down $20 on that. You can win 100 if I put down, let's just say I put down $10 on that just for fun. I can win 50 if all 3 of those hit. So go check out prizepicks.com /lockedon and see what's available for you. Prizepicks.com /lockedonnba. Get your first deposit matched up to $100. Prizepicks.com /lockedonnba. All right, Dana, we're answering questions or finishing sentences. We're doing something on the halfway point of the Mavericks season. We've answered questions about Luka and his MVP, Kyrie and his fit, Tim Hardaway, should they trade him, should they not trade him, Dereck Lively and the rookie wall. This has kind of perplexed me. The Mavs small ball lineups haven't worked because...
The Mavs small ball lineups haven't worked because, all right, so I know you love numbers and you dive like deep into it. I'm going to kind of like let you do all of that stuff. I feel like some of these might be a little bit skewed because there have been some games where Luka also wasn't playing with the centers in this particular situation. So I think the small ball lineups haven't worked because probably, a no-brainer, rebounding is a major issue when you are small. And the Mavericks at times have had to go small, like just out of necessity because of injury issues. And the way to make up for, a real disadvantage on the boards for the Mavericks, they have to lean into things like 3-point shooting, right? And taking care of the ball. And on certain nights, some of those things have disappeared for them. They have to rely on great defense. If you're not going to rebound the ball, you need to be, crisp rotations. You've got to be having everyone on the same page on the double teams that you're employing, like certain things like that. And I feel like they've just not been able to get stops and get out in transition and run, which is what you do well when you're playing small, right? So it feels a little bit, and I know you probably have a great answer that has a lot to do with the stats. That is just sort of like the eye test for me. and the gut reaction when you're watching and when they're using those lineups.
The eye test is correct, or at least the eye test and the numbers match, because yes. So I go to cleaning the glass. They cut out garbage time. They cut out heaves. And so it's a little bit more of an accurate representation. I took off the court Dereck Lively, Dwight Powell, Rashawn Holmes, and Maxi Kleber. Get them all off. If you're over 6'10", get off the court. The Mavs are a negative 13.1 net rating. They're getting outscored by 13 points per 100 possessions. That's very bad. They are getting killed on offensive rebounds on both sides of the floor. They're not getting any offensive rebounds, and they're not grabbing any offense. 1 percentile on both of those. Just absolutely getting destroyed on offensive rebounds and grabbing their own offensive rebounds. And they're getting destroyed defensively. They're allowing 126.2 points per 100 possessions. That's in the 2nd percentile. So, like, not the first, which is the worst, but, like, just above that. It's been really bad. To me, I think you're totally right. They're losing on rebounding. They're losing defensively. They're getting killed at the rim. I think teams are shooting like 76% at the rim against those lineups, which makes sense. The problem is they're not creating an advantage in any other area in that. They already can create as many threes as they want when they play bigger. So it's not like you're creating more threes. And so, like, there is no real advantage being made. The reason why the Warriors death lineup and small ball lineups could work is they were spreading the floor in an era where that was kind of new, right? That not every team had a 4-man that could shoot the ball. Zach Randolph was still playing in the NBA then. Like, he was still the big bruising 4 that could play in that spot. He was kind of a unicorn at that point, but like, not every team had we'll just throw Harrison Barnes at the 4 and then he'll shoot and then it'll work. It doesn't work as well in today's NBA. It doesn't create that same kind of advantage. And the Mavericks are not. Their defense has also been very bad because you're putting guys in places that just aren't used to that aren't used to having to worry about the back line and all that. They've only played defense well when Lively is out there to call things out and to be the back line helper and all that. And they just don't have that security blanket. I mean, one of the reasons why is because Lively's been good.
Well, for sure. And I don't think they, would prefer to be playing small. I don't know that this is something for the reasons you just said.
Yeah.
I know that they have found a lot of other lineups in other ways. They have just not been able to have that continuity with those. If it, with all of the injuries, not to mention practice. Yeah. Don't you think there are other things that could come? Like if they had a legit practice time and we're looking very specifically at fine tuning things to play small, there would be, anytime we've seen them actually have some practice time, they've come back out. They've looked so much better defensively. Their last practice was December 21st. I think they're actually practicing in LA before coming home, and it'll be the first practice, which, since December 21st. So there, I think all of that, it's just a cumulative effect as to why that is not a great plan for them.
They also play very small. Like Luka, I think is 6'8". He's listed at 6'7". Grant Williams is 6'6". Luka is the tallest player on the court. Like you don't have these big wings to play this kind of small ball where you can take advantage of some of the, because a team will all of a sudden, we've got to match them because we've got to play smaller because we can't have a center that's lumbering around there and not being able to catch up with guys. And so there's just all the things that we just mentioned are the issues why that's not working. We should mention that the Mavericks are going to get to practice because they're going to have 4 days off between the Lakers game and the Celtics game on Monday because of the passing of the Warriors assistant coach. Just a tragedy. They're postponing the Mavericks Warriors game on Friday night. And so, but the Mavericks will get some practice time, it looks like, because they play that Celtics game at home and then they play the Suns at home on Wednesday. And so they'll be home for a little while there, which will be good for them, even though they were just home for like almost 3 weeks, almost 3 weeks. But
yeah, it's a lot of time at home now. Yeah.
The last thing I want to talk about is Omax. Omax Prosper has been playing some games in the G League. Omax will find a role on the Mavericks because I'll start and answer this one.
Sure. You go ahead.
I've been watching some of Omax's G League games, and the G League is very interesting to me. I couch it every time. I'm like, the G League, he is the tallest player on the court. Him and Greg Brown are like the centers for the Texas Legends. There are not many centers in the G League. It just doesn't lend itself to that. They play very fast. But what I've seen from Omax is he looks very good defensively. He's got really good body control defensively. There was a play the other night against the Sioux Falls Skyforce where he's running back on transition defense with this guard. He's running back and the guard stops on a dime and tries to go up, and Omax stops on the same dime, turns around and like contests the shot. And that's just something that nobody on the Mavericks can really do right now. He's got size that nobody else on the Mavericks can have right now at the wing. I think he'll find a role on this team eventually. He's got to get more threes up. That's been the thing that I haven't seen very much. He's taken like 2 to 3 threes a game with the Legends. They don't create as many catch and shoot 3 opportunities as you would hope that a team would. But I think that the Mavericks just need what he can do, and eventually I think they'll turn to it, because if they don't get somebody in a trade, then he's the guy that I can imagine Cuban or Nico or somebody being like, wow, bringing up Omax is like acquiring somebody in a trade for us. But I think he'll find a role, because I think the Mavs need what he can bring.
Well, and you do love the energy, the athleticism.
Always shows it. Yep.
There, even if it's 10 minutes, even if it's a 10-minute stretch, little chunks of time throughout the game where he is just out there altering somebody's shot. He's out there kind of getting in the face of a shooter who's been hot. I don't know that we're going to see some dramatic improvement to his shot in just a short period of time, right? That doesn't feel like something that happens quickly, especially like you said, if in games in the G League, he's not even getting that many opportunities. He's certainly not going to get them in his maybe 8 to 10 minutes or whatever it is that he plays with the Mavs. That's going to be something that's going to be like an off-season priority, and that he will work on, I'm sure, morning, noon, and night to get that shot. And it may take a couple of years to develop. You've seen that with many different players who, if it isn't just their actual natural shooting motion, it takes time. But you're right. I think that sort of a spark is something that could be necessary. And I really hope that he's making so much progress that he is a part of things. And I hope it's not because the Mavericks just can't get healthy. And it's because, you just hope it's because he's actually developed into something that they're really seeing good things from him. And it isn't because they're just so shorthanded they need him.
There you go. We will be back. I should have an extra episode for you since we're not doing the Warriors game since it got postponed. I should have an extra episode. WFAA did a great sit-down interview with Dereck Lively. I'll probably walk through that and talk about some of the things that he said in there. And so I'll probably do a bonus episode this weekend. If not, we'll be back Sunday night with Reggie. We'll talk more about the Mavericks going forward, some trade rumors. There's all kinds of stuff popping up all over the place. Subscribe to the subtext if you want the trade rumors. I text them straight to your phone. So if you don't want to just hang out on Twitter all day and try and figure out what trade rumors matter, subscribe to the subtext. Click the link in the description, text the number. You can sign up for a free trial, and you can get all the trade rumors and all that stuff sent, and it helps support the show. So I appreciate all that. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.